everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Well, today we're going to discuss how to survive the cost of living crisis. And if you're just any human on the planet right now, you'll see in the news how there's so many stories and so many information of the rising cost of food, housing, you name it, and that's even before Trump's tariffs. The living in the world seems to be more and more expensive, and wages and resources don't seem to match those rising costs, but there is certain resources that people can achieve and look into that I'm going to discuss in this video to try and help people survive this period. First, we're going to discuss different housing supports. Now, obviously, it depends on the government and where you live in the world, but in Canada, in many places, there are these programs that are called homelessness prevention programs or stability funds, and essentially what they do is that they're meant to help people either prevent homelessness, come out of homelessness, and everything in between. These programs are meant to help you pay for things like a deposit for a new place, moving costs from one place to another. If you are someone who is in rent arrears, sometimes they pay off those rent arrears in order for you to stay in your housing. And essentially it's meant to prevent people from becoming homeless because, again, in many parts of the world, but especially in Western countries, homelessness is on the rise. There's more and more people that are being unhoused, and there's more and more people who are losing their housing support. And so these programs are meant to try and alleviate that gap by either keeping you in the house that you're having right now and or helping you gain new housing. And essentially these programs are meant to keep you where you are living or help you find a new place to live. Aside from housing, the number two most important expense that I think every household needs is utility support. And there are many programs all around at least Canada, where they provide support for hydro and for utilities, whether it be on an ongoing basis or stopping a disconnection or paying, again, arrears and back payments. There tend to be different types of these programs all throughout Canada, and there may even be, wherever you're watching this video, there may be programs in your neck of the woods meant to help people with utilities, and that could be anything from electric, gas, hydro, you name it. So talk to the representatives of your state or representatives of your city and see what type of supports there are out there. In many cases, it will either be through government organizations or it will be through not-for-profits that are closely aligned or closely associated with the government. Similar to the Stability Fund, sometimes it's an outside source that provides the funding support, but they are meant to help people in that local community. And outside of both utility and housing programs, there are different types of emergency assistance programs in different parts of Canada. Obviously, they're also meant to be temporary supports meant for emergency situations, and they can help with things like housing, like food insecurity, trying to get funding for things that are just out of your control but are necessities. You know, as many studies have shown, many people do not have an emergency savings for in case things that are unexpected comes up, and so these programs are meant to help people pay for food, pay for housing, pay for those necessities when they have things that come up that they can't really pay for. Next, we're going to discuss different food supports that people can look into, help, for the cost of living. Again, food is one of those things outside of housing, utilities, that are very much a necessity. And as I said before, sometimes emergency assistance programs can help pay for food in order for people not to have food insecurities and be able to have enough money to eat. But if your situation is different and maybe is ongoing, or your area does not have emergency assistance, then there still are other programs that you can look into. Obviously, many people will suggest the food bank and other organizations that provide like soup kitchens and whatnot, where you can get food for your family. I know those were hugely popular and needed during the pandemic, and a lot of organizations have continued to try and get funding to sustain their food banks and to sustain their support for their local community. Especially a lot of religious organizations will have free pantries or cheap groceries or other type of food support for their local community. I know in the city that I'm in, there are many churches that provide free groceries for the community. And it's not for people who are necessarily Christian. It's literally for anybody who has a need and does not have the resources to pay for food or pay for food at full price because of the cost of living crisis and grocery prices going up specifically. Like, there are different organizations that can still provide you some type of food subsidy so that you and your family are not starving. I think another avenue that people do not really think of, but is very important to figure out how to pay for, is medical expenses, and specifically drug prescriptions and how to pay for those. Because, food is not necessarily the only necessity that people have. People need their medications to survive. And it's not even just to alleviate this or that, it's actually to live in general. And so if there's a situation where you no longer can pay for your medications or you lose your insurance coverage, I would reach out to your city and your community supports and community resources to find out if there are programs that will help either pay for your prescription drugs or pay for you overall for your prescription drugs, because those are necessities. Those are things that actually keep people alive and keep people from falling into the gap of being in the hospital or being in other medical institutions. So it is important that you look out and see if there are prescription drug programs in your area. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to link in the description a few of the programs that I showed on the screen for different resources. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. And I will see you next week.